Hey, what's up? I'm Norris and welcome back to another sew along. Now, in this sew along today, we'll be working on my latest design with Mimiji style and also Simplicity pattern, which is pattern number 9458. Now, this is a dope tracksuit and we will be working on view A, the jacket. Now, if you're new to sewing or just need a refresher course, you can click the link in the description box below. Now, because this is not a learn to sew video, I would recommend you visit sewedacademy.com, which is a sewing and design online school. And if you sign up for the free trial, you get the first 5 courses for free. Okay, now let's get started. Okay, once again, like I said, we're working on pattern 9458, and we're working on view A, which is the jacket of the tracksuit. Now, if you look on the back, if you look at fabrics, you can use anything like a French terry, double knit, scuba, a ponte, pretty much the same thing that you would use for the actual pants. So if you saw my pants tutorial first, you'll notice that I did a faux leather. So the construction is pretty much the same. There are little things you have to do different when you're working with something that's a little bit outside of the box than what you normally would or what it says on the back of the envelope. Once again, you want to measure and then see your sizes up top. Whatever your measurements fall within, that's what you cut out. And for this particular view A, we will use one 30-inch zipper. You would need 2 7-inch zippers, and that's all you would need for view A. Okay, so now let's go through all the pattern pieces that we'll be using. You're gonna need pattern piece number 2, which is the pocket. You're gonna cut 2 out of fabric and then 2 out of lining. And just to note, when you transfer these markings, you only have to transfer them on the back of the lining pieces. You won't have to use them for your fabric pieces. So just only mark the back of your lining with these markings. And also you can connect the line from this dot to this dot, and you'll see why. Next is pattern piece number 9. It's the back facing. You're going to cut 1 out of fabric and 1 out of interfacing. Pattern piece number 6. You're going to cut 2 of these, and this is your sleeve band. Pattern piece number 11 is your back band, which is the band on the bottom of the jacket. Pattern piece number 10, the front band. Now this is attached to the back band, which goes for both sides of the front. Next is pattern piece number 7, the collar. Now this is my favorite part of this design, the extended, exaggerated collar. Okay, so you're gonna cut 1 of these on the fold, and the fold is here. Next we have pattern piece number 8. You want to cut 2 of these out of fabric and then 2 out of interfacing. Next is pattern piece number 5. You want to cut 2 of these out of fabric, and this is your back sleeve. Pattern piece number 4, this is your front sleeve. You're going to cut 2 of these out of your fabric. Pattern piece number 1, this is your front. You want to cut 2 of these out of your fabric. And once again, don't forget to mark your markings and all of your notches. And then last but not least, we have pattern piece number 3. It's your back. You want to cut 1 of these on the fold, and your fold is here. Okay, so once you cut all of your pattern pieces out of your fabric, we can begin sewing. Okay, so before we get started, you want to do some stay stitching at your back neck going inward. You want to start on one side and stop at the middle, and then start on this side and then finish at the middle. And then for both of your front pieces, you want to start towards the back and finish in the front. Okay, so now let's just move along to properly do our pocket with the zipper. Okay, so first, this is our front piece, and it's right sides facing. So your marking should be on the right side. And then this right here is the wrong side of my lining where you see my marking. Okay, now the shiny side is my front. So with right sides facing, we're going to match up and pin. So how I like to start pinning, I go ahead and put my pin in the corner, and then I take the pin and then put it in the corner underneath. And then that's how I know it's exactly where I want it to be. Okay, so I have the binding box pinned down, and then also you have a notch here at the bottom that you want to pin. I'm just gonna pin this stuff in place. Okay, so now we're going to head to the machine and we're just going to stitch all the way around the binding box. Okay, so do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine. I'm going to go ahead and unpin there first. And then now I'm just going to make a slit down the center. And then I'm going to slash until I get about 5/8 of an inch away from the end of that stitching, and then I'm going to go into the corners just like that, and then you'll get that little V like this, and then same thing on the other side. And definitely do not cut through your stitching, just to it. And then now we're just going to turn this to the wrong side, turn it around. And then now you just take this to your pressing table, just like this, and give it a good press. Do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the pressing table, and your garment should look like this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn it where the right side is facing up like this. And then now you wanna grab your 7-inch zipper. I think mine is a little longer. I think this is a 9-inch, but I just cut off whatever I don't need. So basically, as you can see, the stitching right here at the top, I went ahead and just tacked it together so it won't be too far apart. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it up under my front piece. Okay, so I'm just going to slide it up under here, making sure that the zipper is all the way up to the top so I know where it should stop. Then just want to line it up right there in the center. And then just take some pins and we're going to pin the sides down like that. Make sure it's in the center. Okay, so now we're going to head to the machine and we're going to add stitch all the way around. Okay, so first I'm going to go ahead and put my needle right where that edge is. I'm going to take one of my pins out, and then now I'm just going to make sure that I keep that same distance all the way around. Also, you can see that I'm not using my zipper foot. I like the weight of this one to hold everything down, so that's why I'm not using my zipper foot. If you need your zipper foot, you could definitely use it now. Okay, so back stitch at the beginning and also at the end. Okay, you want to pivot. Okay, so when I get to the teeth, I'm going to take my time. So now I'm just going to wheel it by hand just so I won't break my needle. Okay, pivot again. Okay, so before I get to my zipper pull, I'm just going to pull this back like that just so I can get around. And then now you just finish up where we left off. All right, I'm gonna pull my zipper, pull all the way back up so I can finish it up right here. Okay, so we're back from the machine. As you can see, the zipper is already installed. So I'm just gonna turn it wrong side up. And then now I'm just going to cut off whatever extra zipper I didn't need. Okay, just like this. And then now I'm just going to take the other piece and then just lay it on top. This is the pocket piece that's cut out of the fabric. Okay, so it just goes right on top. And you should have a notch right here that matches up. And I'm going to go ahead and clamp here. So what we're going to be doing first, we're going to head to the machine and we're going to stitch the top, and we're going to pivot and then stitch the seam allowance from the binding box with the pocket and the lining all right here. We're going to leave the actual front piece free, and then we're going to stop. And then we're just going to baste down the front and the bottom after we do that. Okay, so do your stitches here, pivot, and then across, lift this up and then do across that back, and then we're just going to base here and here. So do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine, and I just want you to know that I am finishing off my seam with bias tape, just so you won't think that I'm doing something different. You can do serging, you can do zigzag stitch, peaking shears, however you want to finish your seams off for the inside. You can do it at this time. And then after I did that, I went ahead and I based down the front and then the bottom. Okay, so next I'm going to go ahead and grab my front sleeve. So I'm going to turn this around right side up. I'm going to turn it this way. And now I'm going to grab my front sleeve. So this is my front sleeve, and I also want to note that I am doing piping on my jacket. So my piping is going to be in between my front sleeve and my front piece, and also my back sleeve and my back piece. So as you can see right here, I just basted. This is not in the instructions. It's not a part of the actual design. It's just something I'm adding as I go along. So I don't want you to get confused. It's the same exact process, okay? So I just went ahead and based that down. Just ignore that if you're not doing any piping, anything extra. So go ahead and turn that right side's facing. You have one notch right there. And because my fabric is a little thick, I'm gonna go ahead and clamp them down instead of pinning. Okay, so now you just want to head to the machine. We're going to start here and then stitch all the way down using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Do that, come back, and we will continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine, and as you can see, I went ahead and attached my front sleeve to my front pocket, and then I finished my seam off with bias. Okay, so next I'm going to attach my back pocket to my front pocket. So the right side's facing. I'm going to grab my back piece, and there should be a notch over here that you can pin. Okay, so just head to the machine. You want to start here and then stitch all the way up using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so I'm back from the sewing machine. As you can see, I went ahead and attached my back sleeve to my front sleeve. And then on the inside, I just finished up my seam with a flat fell seam. That's not in the instructions. You can just do a regular zigzag or serge, peaking shears, or however you finish your seams. All right. So once you do all of this, you want to do your other side the same way, your front sleeve, and your back sleeve. Okay. And also your zipper here. Okay. So once you have both pieces, I want you to go ahead and prepare to attach the back sleeve to the back piece. I'm going to go ahead and grab my back piece, right side's facing up. Okay, so with your back, you want to go ahead and match up your double notch here and pin or either clip. Okay, and then now I'm about to grab my other side and do the same exact thing. So we're just gonna head to the machine. We've done this before with our fronts. So go ahead and just stitch using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, starting here all the way up to the top, and then you're gonna start here on the other side and all the way up to the top, doing the same exact thing. Okay, so do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, as you can see, I'm back from the machine, and my back is attached to my back sleeves. And I went ahead and did bias for my seam allowance, and you can finish your seams however you would like to. So next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn my jacket right sides facing. The front and the back are facing each other. And then I'm just going to close out that side seam, okay? So you just want to pin or use your clamps. You should have notches on the side here. Okay, so then we're gonna head to the machine. We're just gonna start from one end and stitch all the way down to the other end using 5/8 of a minute seam allowance. Okay, so you want to pin and sew your other side the same exact way. All right, I'm back from the machine. I went ahead and closed out my side seam and also up under my sleeve. And then now I'm just going to turn this right side out. Okay, and then now we're going to work on our sleeve. So now you want to take your band. So if you have your band like this, it should be notches on both sides. You want to bring them together. And I'll go ahead and just clamp it a few times just so you can see it. And then you want to stitch across using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. You want to pin and then sew your other side the same exact way. Okay, so I'm back from the machine and I went ahead and pressed my seam open. And then now I'm just going to fold it onto itself like this. The right side is out. And then now I just want to give you a quick tip. So I am using the same exact fabric, and this fabric stretches, but it don't stretch a lot to go over my sleeve. So what I did was I did 2 rows of basting stitches, and I just eased in on this side, on my front side, and also on my back side, and it makes it a little bit smaller and easier for me to get this on. If you're using a regular rib knit, a rib knit does stretch a lot more than probably your regular fabric. So that's a good note to keep in mind too if you wanted to use a different type of coordinating fabric for your band, your sleeve band. So I'm just going to place this over my sleeve, and I'm going to match up my notch and then also the under seam. So just that little gathering made the world of difference of me putting this onto my sleeve. Okay, so now that I have it clipped all the way around, I'm going to head to my machine and stitch all the way around using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so I'm back from the machine. I went ahead and stitched all the way around, and you can trim or serge your seam allowance off. And then now you have a nice cuff attached to your sleeve. Now we're going to take the jacket and attach our collar. Okay, so I'm going to take one end of this and I'm going to match up my back seam. Now this is my collar. Now grab your collar and right sides facing, we're going to align the notch, and then there should be a small dot to indicate that seam there. Okay, so just head to your machine. We're going to stitch all the way across using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, now that we have the collar attached to our jacket, I'm going to put it aside for just a moment. And now we're going to work on the bottom band. Okay, so this is my back band. And then I'm going to take my front bands and attach them. So if you look, you should have notches on the side. So go ahead and place them at the notches and pin, or either use your clamps. And then the same thing for this side. Okay, so head to the machine, and now we're going to stitch both sides down using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Do that, come back and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine, and as you can see, I have my bottom band all connected. And this is my jacket turned upside down, so I'm going to attach this to the bottom of my jacket. So you want to pin or use your clamps at your notches first. And you do supposed to tug it just a bit. And then there should be a notch right here to line up. And you just stretch it out just a bit so you can get a good placement. And when we head to the machine, you're going to be pull and stitch, pull and stitch, pull and stitch. So let me continue pinning. Okay, so let's head to the machine. We're going to stitch all the way across using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so I'm back from the machine. As you can see, I attached my band to the bottom of my jacket. So now I'm just going to open up on the inside real quick. And right where we have our collar attached right here, we're going to just measure in 2 inches. So I'm going to take my seam gauge, put it at 2 inches. I'm going to mark that. So right where that 2 inches is, we're going to clamp into the seam allowance that's on the bottom. And we basically just going to open that up just like that. Now this is to eliminate bulk once we put the zipper in, okay? So you want to do it there, and then the same thing at the bottom band. And also the bottom band has another layer because of the front and also because of the pocket piece. So I'm going to trim that middle piece away just to get rid of some of that bulk. Okay, so we want to do the other side the same exact way, and then we'll continue to put in our zipper. Okay, so I'm back from my pressing table. I went ahead and pressed those seams open where I slashed into here. So now we're going to work on our zipper. Now, we've done a lot of work up until this point, so don't mess this up. So pay close attention. When it comes to your collar, you want to make sure you find the center. So what I like to do, I like to fold it and make sure you include that seam allowance at the bottom. And then wherever that point is, that's your center. So make a little notch and do the same thing for your bottom band. Okay. Now the seams needs to match up. Seams need to match up here, and then also the zipper needs to be in the same place on both sides so everything can line up. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the bottom first. Okay, I want to make sure that the bottom of my separating zipper is about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch away from the center of my bottom band. Okay, so I'm going to place it right there. And then also you want your zipper to be 1/4 inch away from the front, okay? And then once again, it should be face down. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna go ahead and pin that in place and continue my way up. Okay, so once I get up here to the top, we can see that the zipper is extending. Okay, so if you're looking at the pattern instructions, it'll show you how to take your teeth off, but I have plastic teeth and it's not gonna rip well. I have plastic teeth, so when we get up here, as you can see, the center of my collar is here. I'm gonna go ahead and put a pin so I can show you. It's right there. That's the center. So as you can see, my zipper extends just a little bit. So if you look in your pattern instructions. It'll show you how to take your teeth away using tools, so you can adjust the zipper. But because my zipper teeth are not metal, they're plastic, I don't want to ruin my zipper tape. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a mark right here, and then on both sides. So this is going to tell me where my zipper tape should be when I align it on the other side. Okay, so I'm gonna show you later how to adjust this down if you want to do it the same exact way that I'm doing it. Okay, so for right now, we're going to leave it like this and head over to your sewing machine, and we're going to stitch about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the zipper tape. So just start at the center of your collar and then go all the way down until you end up at the bottom. So you want to do that, come back, and we'll continue. And we're only basting this down. Okay, so we're back from the machine. I went ahead and basted down this side. And also, I went ahead and put some markings right where the seams are. Put a marking here, and I put a marking on the other side too, so I know that it's aligned there. And then also at the seam at the bottom, so I can know that every section the zipper is going to be lined up right. Okay, so now I'm just going to unzip this, and then I'm going to turn it to the other side, and I'm just going to match up where my markings are with all the seams. Okay, and then we're going to place it a 1/4 inch away from the front edge, and we're going to pin. Okay, so head to the machine, and we're going to base down the other side 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the zipper tape. So do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so I'm back from the machine. So now we're just going to zip this up just to test it, to make sure we don't have to adjust it at all. Okay, so once you zip it up, you should have your seams meeting all in the same place. Okay, it should meet at the same place up here too. Okay, so I'm just going to unzip that for right now. And then now we're going to work on our facing. So I'm going to put this to the side for just a moment. So I'm grabbing my back facing, open that up. And then with right sides facing, I'm going to match up my notches. And I'm going to use my clamps because it's pretty thick. All right, we'll do the other side the same exact way. Okay, so you want to stitch both sides down using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Do that. Head to your pressing table, press your seams open, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so I'm back from the machine and the pressing table. You can see the seams are pressed open, and I just did a little bias tape to finish off that raw edge on the outside. That's optional. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. But moving along, you want to come to the top of your collar up here, all the way up here. And we're going to attach our facing to our collar. So you want to go ahead and attach that here across the top. And I'm going ahead and use my clamps instead of pinning. And there should be a dot. I used a notch instead of a dot, but it should be an indication of where that seam should meet up. And then you have dots across the back. Okay. So while we are here, I'm going to go ahead and take the bottom of the band and attach it to the bottom of my facing. Now there should be a notch indicating where it should line up. So you want to go ahead and match that up. And then I'm going to do the other side the same exact way. Okay, so now we're going to head to the machine and we're going to stitch all the way across the top of the collar and where the facing is using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. We're not going to do the side yet. We're just going to come to the bottom, do 5/8 of an inch here, and then here. So do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine, and I went ahead and pressed the seams open across the top of the collar and with the facing, and then also at the bottom of the band, and also the bottom of the facing. So now, the top right here where we stitched and we pressed that seam open, we're gonna take that seam and we're going to line it up with the seam right here with the collar and the front piece. So once that match up, and you want to match it up now, make sure it don't move. So I'm gonna clamp that down. And then also I'm going to take the seam here at the bottom and I'm going to put it at the seam with the band and also the front piece. Okay? So you match those two pieces up. And this right here is sandwiching your zipper. Okay? So once that happens, this right here should fit perfect. And the only thing we have to do is just clamp it down or either pin it. So up here you see I have the extra zipper, so I'm not going to cut it off yet. I'm just going to make sure that I have it as close to the top as possible, and then I'm going to clamp it down. Okay, so this is how it's supposed to look, and then we're going to do the other side the same way. Okay, the same thing over here with the zipper. We're just going to have that zipper face out. We're going to just turn it a little bit, making sure that it's going all the way up to the top. But once it's to the top, we just turn it a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to head to the machine and we're just going to stitch starting at the top and going all the way down using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And we're going to do the exact same thing on both sides. So do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so I'm back from the machine. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to trim off this zipper here at the top. There we go. And then the same over here on this side. I'm just going to trim at a few of these bulky places, like down here. Okay, so after you take all of that bulkiness out, you want to go ahead and turn it right side out. Just like that. Okay, so we're going to stitch the seam allowances together for the collar and the jacket, and then the collar and the facing right here. So we're just going to take the seam allowance that's up here and then the seam allowance that's down here. We're going to open that up and then we're going to put them together. And we don't have to get all the way to the end, but we just want to get as close as we can because that will secure the collar. Okay, and then also for the bottom, we turn this right side out. See, the corners look good. And then you want to do the other side the same way. Now you have two options for the bottom. You can fold it up like this and pin across and stitch all the way across, and then you'll just have to finish your seam allowance however you finish them. I would probably do a bias, since I've been doing a theme of bias tape this entire time. Or what you can do is you can turn your seam allowance down and turn in the seam allowance that's on your lower part of your band, and then overlap it just like that. So all your seam allowance will be inside the band. And then all you have to do is turn it to this side, and then stitch in the ditch. Okay, but if it's too much bulkiness for you, that might be a lot. You might just have to pin and then just stitch it all the way across, and that will close out your band. Once again, head to your machine, and then we're just going to stitch this across. Okay, you might not be able to get 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, but as close as you can get to 5/8 is good. All right, so do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so I'm back from the machine. As you can see, also I went ahead and I took the seam from the front facing and the back facing, and I tacked it down to the center seam of my sleeve. Obviously you don't see it on this side, it's just to tack it down right there where the seams are at, and then just give it a good press. And then at the bottom, as you can see, I went ahead and turned my seam allowance in, so I just stitched in the ditch right there in the center, and it caught underneath. And that's how I finished that. And once you do that, you want to give it a good press. Clip all your loose threads. And then also, because of the heavy material that I have, when I press it, it still might not lay as flat as I would like it to. So one thing that I could do is head to the machine and making sure that I have my zipper teeth stuck out a little bit like that. I can go ahead and top stitch it a 1/4 inch away from the zipper teeth. That'll allow my front to lay flat. Okay. Once you zip it up, all right, just like that. And once you press yours, clip all your loose threads, and go ahead and do all your finishings, you're all done. All right, congratulations. I hope you enjoyed this sew along. Be sure to tag me, Wifey, and also Simplicity Patterns when you post your makes online, okay? See you in the next sew along.